what I noticed is that I had come from a consciousness of a yang practice. And I did say a consciousness of a yang practice. And the people that gravitate toward a yang practice tend to be the people that love to work hard. And that definitely suited my nature and my personality, which is why I loved that practice. It's like that you haven't, lived until you've died the sweetest death type of practice, killing the ego. Now, when I kind of crossed over into a yin practice, I recognized that as a practice of surrender. And I immediately recognized the two as a perfect, complete set, yin and yang, of course. Not one or the other, both. Not one, then the other, both. Not, how about both at once? And remember, I gave myself all these full permissions to really just learn the rules, to expand beyond the rules. And so now this is a more important concentrated talking point. So when I recognize them as different consciousnesses, yin and yang, I started to just play. I started to allow myself permission to play. And I said, well, if the magic ingredient of yin is surrender over time, and if I know through my yang practice that a very deep level of practice is having the ability to contract everything that you need to support the posture and relax everything else, how long could I hold a very yang style posture for? And through surrender, through contracting what I need to support the posture, and through learning to relax everything else. Now, I want to tell you that in the original hot yoga class, there's a posture called camel pose. And in that so-called beginner level class, which is actually an all level class, camel pose is the deepest back bend that you do. It's the maximum compression of the spine. And in that class, the first set is like 30 seconds. And the second set is maybe or maybe not a little longer, but a very, very, very long camel pose in the context of 26 postures, 2 times each. And in this case, in a hot room, 30 seconds to a minute, that's a long hold. So I thought, well, if 30 seconds to a minute is a long hold in a deep back bend in a hot room, then how long could I hold, say, for example, a different posture like a wheel? How long would I be able to hold a wheel if I was practicing in a different context, not in the midst of a hot class of 26 postures and 2 times each, but just in a yin environment of a long hold on a deep posture where I am relaxing the target area? So I started to give myself permission to play. And I'm in a screen share right now, and if you don't mind, I'll just kind of talk into the picture.
Yes, please.
And
please.
I want to show you this picture.
Oh, no, what is this called?
Well, I'm going to say it's just a wheel. It's just a wheel. It's a back bend. You just push up from the floor. You can either do it from standing or from lying down. Most people lie down, get their hands and feet in position. Nice inhale, exhale, push. And then this one happens to be a little deeper. So by the way, yeah, let me just get to it when I get to it. Okay. So I thought, well, how long could I hold a wheel? And I just picked a number out of thin air. And I said, I'm going to see if I could hold that wheel for 3 minutes, because remember, 1 minute in the scheme of 26 postures, 2 times each in a hot room, that's a long, long, long back bend. And I simply didn't know. And so I set my clock for 3 minutes, and I, pushed into a wheel and just relaxed as much as I could and breathed. And I was able to do it for 3 minutes. And I thought it was hard, but I definitely knew that I had much, much more in me. And so I knew that I was going to work my way to 5 minutes. And that came probably within, as I recall, maybe a day or 2. I was pushing into a wheel and holding it for 5 minutes. And once I pushed into a wheel and held it for 5, boom, a fire was lit within me. And so 5, now this is what I was doing. And I mean, over time, not in one day, obviously. 5 becomes 6, 7, 8. By the time I could do 8, I knew I would be able to do a 10-minute wheel. Now, normally, like on my social media, when I post, I'm that, first of all, I'm that super cryptic Scorpio. Less is more, picture says 1,000 words. I feel like if your verbiage is too lengthy, people would go, oh, that's too long, I don't have time. And they won't even bother reading it if it's just too much writing sometimes. So so I typically keep my posts super short and sweet. And I will also say, typically everything I post is just for me. I'm talking to myself. And by the way, like in my social media, if you know me on social media, you really actually know me. That's actually me. So what I want to tell you is that when I did that 10-minute wheel for the first time, that was blog worthy. Okay, now we're back to talking about the mind, Alan. So let me really expand this conversation. So the 10-minute wheel, I wrote a blog on that. And the reason I wrote a blog is because I learned so much about the mind and the modifications of the mind. And I learned it through holding that wheel for 10 minutes. Physically, I described that as like feeling like I was doing a wheel on the fault line of, an active earthquake. And I felt like I had like spinal fluid dripping out of my third eye. And, now we're going back to, when we talked last, you asked me, well, what is it about me that's so intense? That was intense. Like loving, like being energized by being in that level, right, of myself is what I'm going to call it. And anyway, here's what I learned from that 10-minute wheel. Because remember, I'm never just going, look at me and look what I could do. I'm always saying, look what I learned about myself by doing this. And can I help you? Can I support you on that level? Can I share myself with you in the form of what I learned in a 10-minute wheel? So what I learned first and foremost, remember that, oh, this is perfect. Remember how in Standing Bow, we talked about you are not your thoughts?
Mhm.
You are
Yep.
not your thoughts.
Yep.
Now let's circle back around to that. In the 10-minute wheel, I had those thoughts and they said, oh, you can't. This is too hard. This is too much. That's long enough. Come down, come out now. You can't do it anymore. Now, this was that experience in the moment of having the ability to recognize, I am not those thoughts. Those thoughts just said to me, I can't. And that is not true. And so I'm going to put those thoughts aside. I'm going to, I'm upside down, right? Now look at this. Watch this again. I'm going to realize, okay, well, not so much here. I'm doing some work here, but my head is a 12-pound weight, 10 or 12 pounds, and I'm upside down. So if I just relax my neck and let my head hang heavy and decompress. And I can push from the shoulders through the heels of the palms, but I can relax the spine where it's bending. And I was giving myself a lot of permissions. So I gave myself permission to just cradle my pelvis side to side, shift the weight into my shoulders, shift the weight into my
Picture
heels.
again, because I don't know how you actually bend your spine backwards like that.
I'm going to show you a video in a minute. Let me stay on the thought if you don't mind for a
Go
minute.
ahead. Sure.
So I would give myself permissions to just relax and breathe into my body and move into my body and only contract what I need to and relax everything else. And I was listening to music and I was counting out my breath. And remember, I told you what I've learned more than anything is how to work with my mind, right? And what I learned is that my mind said to me at about the 7-minute mark, you cannot do this anymore. You have to come out. And I went, oh, that's not true. I am not that thought. That thought is not me. I'm just the observer of it. And so again, I started just relaxing my neck and moving through the body and relaxing what I can and shifting the weight and listening to music and singing and counting and, just using my mind a little differently, redirecting it. And by the time you know it, the 10-minute clock was up. And I knew with all certainty that at the 7-minute mark, when my mind told me you cannot do this anymore, that was a lie. It was not true, because 3 minutes later, which by the way feels like eternity when you're in that position at first, 3 minutes later, I was still in it. It wasn't true that 3 minutes ago I had to quit. Now, I do want to tell you that what I ended up doing is I took this on as just a personal inner journey of learning the modifications of the mind and expansion of the mind. So remember in our first talk, I told you that yoga is not even spine centric, it's mind centric. And now we've actually circled back and alluded to that multiple times, because I talked a lot about neuroplasticity and sending the command from the brain through the spine without the thought obstruction. We've talked about when the hemispheres are in balance and we open the channel, we're talking about mind. Now we're talking about mind again. What I ended up doing is this, that 10-minute wheel, I then worked that to 15 minutes and then 20, 25. And I knew that I was going to go for 60 minutes. Now, I want to tell you a fun story, only for no reason other than it just delights me. And that is that I wanted to see, I was so curious, I was so lit and inspired by what I was learning about my own mind. I wanted to see what is the longest anyone has ever held a back bend ever. And my first source was to turn to the Guinness Book of World Records. Certainly the world's longest back bend would be in the Guinness Book of World Records. And so I looked it up and the entry item didn't exist. And I went, yes, I'm doing it. Not because I care about setting a world record, but because I care about sharing my message about the modifications of the mind. And I started posting a lot of pictures and using a hashtag, 10-minute back bend, 10-minute back bend, 10-minute back bend, while I was training on my way to the 1-hour wheel. Now I did apply, oh, by the way, 10 became 15, 15 became 20, 25, 30. Now I had a student friend that I was training and I invited her in on this with me to travel this path and do this journey with me. And so she started training that with me, and together, 30 became 45 and 45 became 60.
Together you held the posture together.
Yeah, we did it together. I'm about to show you that video. And together we trained our way to a 1-hour wheel. Now, I do want to tell you, first of all, it wasn't an entry in Guinness Book of World Records. So I thought, well, that would be very inspiring to the yoga community. And so I thought I would do it so that I could really spread the message about the mind and the body, and how breath is a bridge between mind and the body, because it's not about bending your spine backwards. It's about connecting to calm, deep breath while you bend your spine backwards, because if you can breathe there, you can calm down there. And if you can calm down there, you can spend time there. And all the things that, I'm gathering up all the things we've already referenced all into one. And because this is all one conversation. This is one massive conversation. So I thought, okay, well, Google, Guinness Book of World Records doesn't have it. And so I'll just Google it, because everything is on Google, right? So I just Googled world's longest back bend. And it was tricky to find, but I think that what I found, I'm not sure if I'm exact on this, but I think that what I found was something like a 10-year-old gymnast who held a wheel for 7 minutes. That was the most I could find. And I had already done 10 and I was going for 60, right? What? World's longest back bend on record is 10 minutes and I'm doing 60. So when I got to 60 minutes, I applied to Guinness Book of World Records. And by the way, that 60 minutes